We live in a time when the growth of world trade has been slowing. This is worrisome. We also live in a time when support for world trade is waning everywhere in the world. This is equally worrisome. The business community in Spain and throughout the world must find better ways of communicating the benefits of trade and also of encouraging governments and businesses alike to help people adjust to the changes that come because of more trade. Well, the benefits of trade are almost immeasurable. By lowering barriers to trade and investment worldwide over the past generation, hundreds of millions of people have been lifted out of poverty, and standards of living have been enhanced in many parts of the world. No country has ever grown and continued to grow over time without being open to the wider economy for trade and investment. But while that's a prerequisite to prosperity at home, it's not enough. Trade is necessary, but trade is not enough. Each nation in the world must also do domestically what it needs to do to make certain that its people are able to benefit from trade to the extent that they should. And in my country and others, we've not done nearly enough. We haven't done enough to help our citizens through education, training, adjustment from job dislocation, and a lot more to make certain that they're able to compete in an open world economy to the extent that they could and should. First of all, more and more small and medium enterprises in Spain and in virtually every other country in the world are increasingly engaging in international trade on their own. One of the emerging new trade issues is digital trade. We need rules to govern digital trade. This is very important to small and medium-sized businesses because a lot of them trade on the internet. We all buy things now from all over the world through the internet. But also it's important to small and medium-sized enterprises that we continue to do all we can to support and sustain the global supply chains that are increasingly a major part of world trade. I think we're seeing the support for trade diminishing in virtually every country in the world, certainly in my own, also in Europe, including perhaps in Spain, although Spain is a country that has in recent decades been very much in favor of liberalizing trade worldwide. But the anti-globalization movement has now gone global, and everywhere in the world we're seeing its manifestations. The result is that it's difficult to move forward everywhere in the world to lower barriers to trade and also to investment. And this shrinks our economic possibilities, and it could shrink our economies. I think there's been a failure everywhere in the world, certainly including my own country, the United States, to make certain that everyone shares in the benefits that definitely come from trade, the gains from trade. And because we haven't done enough to help us be economically competitive domestically, there's a resistance to doing more economically internationally. Some of this is the traditional form of protectionism. Industries, companies that simply can't compete on an even basis with foreign companies seeking the shelter of barriers to trade domestically. Some of it is also, and much of it is also, misinformation and a tendency to blame trade for what is really a much broader change in the overall global economy. In my country, for example, much of the dislocation, in fact, economists say by far most of the dislocation for our workers has been caused by changes in technology, in automation, for example, and not by trade. But down at the grassroots, as we say, where the people live, they don't know that or believe that. It's easier to blame a foreigner for what happens to you than it is to blame a machine. China has been a major player in the world economy for several decades now, as it embraced to some extent an openness to trade and investment, and has continued to liberalize again to some extent. It's participating worldwide in a significant way in the global economy, with all kinds of consequences for all of our countries. We benefit from trading with China, but also it causes us to have some adjustments that must be made domestically in some sectors of the economy.